survey and presentation task of frequency distribution. In this presentation, we will show a data using categorical frequency distribution and grouped frequency distribution. For the qualitative data, we will use the categorical frequency distribution. The data will be the response of 30 male students living in the dormitory to the provided facilities. This is the gathered data for the qualitative using the categorical frequency distribution.
In the categorical frequency distribution, the first thing we do is to write the class, which are the poor, fair, good, very good, and excellent. Then we were going to get the tally. In the tally, we will identify how many responded in each class. In the poor, there are 3 who responded. In the fair, there are 9. In the good, there are 12. In the very good, there are 3. And in the excellent, there are also 3. Then the next is the frequency. In the frequency, we will just count the number of the tally, then write it. In the third column, which is the percentage, we are going to divide 3, which is the frequency, by 30. 30 is the total number of the respondents. So 3 divided by 30 is 10 multiplied by 100 is equal to 10%. 9 divided by 30 multiplied by 100 is 30%. Same thing to do for the rest of the numbers. The last column is part. In the part, we will have to multiply the 10% by 360. So, 0.10 times 360 is equal to 36 degrees. And the same thing to do for the rest of the numbers.
Pie graph.
10% of the students poor. 40% of the students responded very good. Thus implies that the provided facilities are very convenient to use.
This is how you present data using bar graph. The y-axis represents the frequency and the x-axis represents the class. The computed frequency are 3, 9, 12, 3, and 3. And the class are poor, fair, good, very good, and excellent. We can see that there are 3 respondents answered poor, 9 respondents answered fair, 12 respondents answered good, 3 respondents answered very good, and 3 respondents answered excellent. And the highest computed frequency is 12, yielded to be good, which means that they are satisfied with the provided facilities.
The next is the Pareto chart of the response of 30 male students living in the dormitory. Pareto chart is almost the same with the bar graph. The only difference is the bars are closer or connected, and the bar was arranged from lowest frequency to the highest frequency. In the Pareto chart, only the frequency and the class is needed. The frequency is written in the y-axis, and since the highest frequency is 12, so 12 is in the last. The class is in the x-axis, namely the poor, very good, excellent, fair, and good. Since the frequency poor is 3, then the bar is here. The very good and the excellent is also the same frequency, which is 3. So here is it, the poor, very good, and the excellent. The next one is the fair, which has the frequency of 9. And the last is the good, which has the frequency of 12. Then, that's the Pareto chart.
For the quantitative data, we will use the grouped frequency distribution. The data will be the daily expenses of 30 male students living in the dormitory. This is the gathered data for the quantitative using the grouped frequency distribution.
the group frequency distribution table of the data gathered from the daily expenses of male students living in the dormitory. The table composed of class interval, class boundary, class mark, tally, frequency, cumulative frequency, percentage, and cumulative percentage. To get the class interval, we need to use the formula number of class is equal to 1 plus 3.322 logged n, where n is the total number of the respondents. Next, we get the approximate class width, which the formula is approximate class width is equal to range over number of class. In order to get the range, we subtract the highest daily expenses to the lowest one, and then the result is divided by the number of class, which we solved earlier. And the result of our class width is 13.54326109. The rule in getting the approximate class width: to avoid getting decimals, what is nearest odd number is the approximate class width, so our class width is 13. In getting the class boundary, subtract the numbers from the left side of the class interval by 0.5 and add the numbers from the right side by 0.5. In getting the class mark, add the numbers from the class boundary and divide it by 2. The tally is get from the daily expenses of the male dormers living in the dormitory. The frequency are the number of the daily expenses male dormers living in the dormitory. The sum of the frequency should be the total number of the respondents. In getting the cumulative frequency, the first number in the frequency is also the first number in the cumulative frequency. Next, add the first number to the second number in the frequency to get the second number in the cumulative frequency. Same thing to do to the rest of the remaining numbers. To make sure that the answer is correct, the sum of the frequency must be the last number in the cumulative frequency. Then, let's proceed to the percentage. In getting the percentage, each number in the frequency should be divided by the total number of the respondents and multiply it by 100 to get the percentage. Lastly, to get the cumulative percentage, same thing to do when we get the cumulative frequency. The first in the percentage should be the first in cumulative percentage and add it to the second percentage. To make sure that the answer is correct, the total percentage must be the last percentage in the cumulative percentage. And this is the grouped frequency distribution.
This is the histogram of the daily expenses of 30 male students living in the dormitory. The y-axis is the frequency of the said data, which correspond to the number of respondents. The frequency will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. The x-axis is the class boundaries, which correspond to the value or amount of money that's spent by a student per day. The class boundary will be 19.5, 32.5, 44.5, 57.5, 70.5, 83.5, 96.5, and 109.5. In the chart or graph presented, there are more number of students whose daily expenses is around 96.5 to 109.5. In the other hand, only few students spend less than 50. Overall, the majority of the students who is living in the dormitory spends more than 50 per day.
Let us proceed to our frequency polygon. Now, we will determine on how to get the frequency polygon graph. In the y-axis or in vertical line, these sides represent the frequency, while in this horizontal line, it represents a class mark. For us to have a frequency polygon graph, we use frequency and class mark. Remember, in getting frequency polygon graph, it should be used by frequency and class mark. First, we have in frequency 2, while the class mark is 26. The first point is 2 and 26. The second one is 0 and 39, followed by 8 and 52, 4 and 65, 5 and 78, 1 and 91, 10 and 104. One thing that we should always remember in making frequency polygon graph, it should start in 0 and it will end at the point of horizontal line. This frequency polygon graph is always closed.
This is the presentation of data using ogive or cumulative frequency graph. It is given that in x-axis, it should be represented with the class boundary, and in the y-axis is the cumulative frequency, where class boundaries are 19.5, 32.5, 44.5, 57.5, 70.5, 83.5, 96.5, and 109.5. We get these numbers from the left side of the class boundaries in the group frequency distribution table. The cumulative frequencies are 2, 10, 14, 19, 20, and 30. We get this from the cumulative frequency in the group frequency distribution table. As we can see in the ogive or cumulative frequency graph, the highest daily expenses of the male students belong to the class boundary 109.5. It means that the daily expenses, mostly of the male dormers, are 100 plus.
So in the presented data, charts, and graphs using the categorical frequency distribution for the response about the provided facilities in the dormitory of the 30 male students living in the dormitory, the majority of the 30 male dormers were satisfied to the provided facilities in the dormitory. For the group frequency distribution, with the same respondents, 30 male students, we also asked them for their daily expenses as they lived in the dormitory, and majority of the students' daily expenses is 100, or their daily average expenses is mostly from 98 to 100. So that's all for our presentation. We hope that you like our presentation, and thank you for listening.